Good morning, everybody. Matt Modi here with Jedi Modi Sports Network, and welcome to another episode of these pumped up NFL player props. As for tonight, we have Monday Night Football, Raiders versus Lions. I have 3 player props for you guys to lock in for tonight. 2 of them are of the pumped up variety. If you are new to my channel and you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about with these pumped up props, all I mean is that I find a player's player prop that I like, but instead of taking it at the main line, I pump up the numbers a little bit, getting pretty juicy odds. It has worked wonders for me so far this NFL season. To do a recap from yesterday for Sunday's slate, I gave out 4 actually on this YouTube channel. I got 2 of those 4 to cash. We ended the day up slightly over 4 units. That brings our total profit in the past week for these pumped up props to 12.80 units of profit. I say in the past week because this is something that I just started doing. I didn't do it for the first basically 6 weeks of the NFL season, so I've only done it for weeks 7 and 8. But it has been a smashing success. We've yet to have a losing day on these pumped up props. So if you've been riding with me, would appreciate it if you could like the video and comment, let me know your thoughts. If you are new, would appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button to follow along with me. And let's get into Monday Night Football tonight. As I mentioned, I have 3 plays for you guys. The first one is my first and only non-pumped up prop of the day. I just loved it so much that I had to lock it in. Our first play, Josh Jacobs under 63.5 rushing yards. This is at minus 120 odds. This is at Fliff, so you need to download Fliff. If you don't have Fliff, it's minus 130 basically everywhere else. So as I mentioned, my one non-pumped up prop for today, but I love fading Josh Jacobs in this matchup. Overall, the Lions in general have a very good defense. Now, they were 3rd in DVOA heading into last week. Then they got spanked by the Ravens and they dropped down to 7th or 8th in defensive DVOA. Luckily for these Lions, the Raiders are absolutely not the Ravens. Overall, looking at DVOA, the Lions have the 8th best rushing defense in the NFL. And again, it was higher than this outside of that Ravens game. They allow the 2nd fewest rushing yards per game. They allow the 3rd lowest yards per carry as well. Overall, only one running back has gone over this rushing yardage prop against the Lions, and that was Gus Edwards last week. So again, it's just that Ravens game, which is the only bad game really they played all year. They have an awesome rushing defense outside of the Ravens game. Meanwhile, on the Raiders side, Josh Jacobs has been one of the least efficient runners in the NFL this year, while the Raiders offensive line is terrible. Looking at DVOA, the Raiders have the literal worst, the last rushing offense in the NFL, again, according to DVOA. They also have the 3rd worst offensive line in terms of adjusted yards gained. And Josh Jacobs hasn't even been good at what's getting blocked for him. Again, he's one of the least efficient running backs in the NFL. He's in like Cam Akers, A.J. Dillon territory. He's been brutal. This is a number in terms of rushing yards that Josh Jacobs has only hit twice in 2 games so far this year. In both of those games, the Raiders were winning basically the entire matchup, and he had 20-plus carries in both of those games. Those are the only 2 games in which he's had 20-plus carries. That's not going to happen in this Lions game, in which they're like 7.5, 8.5, 9 point underdogs, depending on where you look. They're going to be losing the whole game. He's not going to get 20 plus carries. In the carries that he does get, I am not expecting him to be efficient with them. So I love getting him to go under 63.5 rushing yards as our first play. And next up, my first of 2 pumped up props. I'm calling my shot. Jameer Gibbs, 100 plus rushing yards, plus 305 odds at Caesars. So yes, I'm calling my shot. Jameer Gibbs is going to have his first rushing yard day in his career. I have to admit, so far this year, I have taken some L's on Jameer Gibbs, and I have just been appalled at his usage. He clearly shows a ton of juice, but they have been very limited in terms of his touches. And then he missed a month with a hamstring injury. But with David Montgomery out, in the matchup against the Raiders, this is a slam opportunity for Jameer Gibbs. The Raiders defense is terrible. They're not good. They're particularly bad against the run. DVOA has them as the 28th ranked rushing defense in the NFL. That's also known as 5th worst. Just looking at raw stats, they give up 129 rushing yards per game That's ranked 24th. And they give up 4.4 yards per carry, which is ranked 22nd. The Lions, meanwhile, have a very good offensive line and are a very good rushing team in general. They're the 8th ranked rushing offense in the NFL. Last week against the Ravens was Jibreel Gibbs' first game back from that hamstring injury. But the reason why I like that, despite the fact that him having only 11 carries, is he played 63 of 70 snaps. He was basically on the field the entire game. And in those 11 carries, he had 68 rushing yards. It's unsurprisingly a game in which they were down 28-0 basically before the first quarter even ended. He wasn't going to get a ton of work in that game. He's going to have limited carries. But in this game, a game in which they should be leading the entire time, I'm expecting him to get closer to the 15 to 20 carries, and I'm expecting him to be very efficient with those carries. His main line over-under is 71.5. That's a number that he's only hit in one game so far this year. So the books are clearly expecting him to outproduce his normal rushing totals that he's been doing up until this point. So I love finding situations like that. I think he's a smash play today. As my second play, my first pumped up prop, and my third play, my second and final pumped up prop of the evening, Josh Reynolds, 60 plus receiving yards, plus 290 odds at DraftKings. This is a play whether Amon-Ra plays or not. I do like targeting Josh Reynolds in this one. He's sneakily been pretty good and pretty consistent for the Lions this year. He doesn't get a ton of recognition because David Montgomery gets all the touchdowns. Amon-Ra gets the majority of the targets and the yards, but Josh Reynolds has just been consistently good for the Lions. And even with Jameson Williams back, he's still getting the same amount of work in terms of snap percentage and stuff. And he catches deep passes, which I like as well. Now, the last 2 weeks, he's only had 3 targets in each game, but he's been very efficient with those 3 targets. He's turned those into receiving yard outputs of 50 and 43. And overall, if you look at the entire year, he's hit 60 yards in 4 of 7 games so far this year. And in 2 of those 3 he missed. Again, he had 50 and 43. He's only had 1 game in which he was terrible. He got totally goosed in that game. But talking about Amon-Ra, he was a late add to the injury report. Is currently listed as questionable with an illness. So who knows whether he's going to play or not. If he does play, who knows if he's going to be limited or not. And the Lions, on the other side of the ball in terms of the receiving options, just haven't figured out what to do yet with Jameson Williams. Last week, he had 6 targets and he had 0 receptions. And Josh Reynolds is just there as a reliable receiver. He might only need 3 receptions to make this one happen. So for plus 290 odds, I think the value is really good. He's also one that I would recommend laddering up to 60 yards as well. I do think that he's going to hit his over-under main line of like 36.5, and he can go 40, 50 as well. But I'm only tracking the 60 plus. That's all I got for you guys. 3 plays to lock in. If we get one of these 3, or we get one of the 2 pumped up props to cash, we are profitable. If we only get our main line prop to cash, we'll be down a little bit. But let's hope we can go 3 for 3 and become rich. And again, that's all I got. Appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and have a good one.